I'd just like to focus on a few points. I don't think I can say anything that hasn't been said, and but I'd like to emphasize a few points because I thoroughly enjoyed all the presentations and benefited from them. I kind of try to get to the essence of this from my point of view. First is that and I don't mind being challenged on this, but I try to make these emphatic statements. I think the distribution of social power is an inevitable evolutionary trend. It's not new. It's been going on for centuries. In many respects, it's gaining great speed in some areas. In other areas, we may even be going temporarily in the other direction. But I think I'm saying it strongly for the sake of discussion, even in debate. But I think it is inevitable, irresistible, if the human race is going to really fulfill its natural trajectory. I'm not talking about desirable even. I'm not saying ethically good. I'm saying inevitable, that's where it's going, and I put my money on it. And that refers to the political movement from monarchy or feudalism or autocracy to democracy. It refers to the gradual from European societies where 80 or 90% of the wealth was controlled by 3% of the population. That was the case 200 years ago, to the point where we have a middle class growing all over the world, not only within societies but around the world. We're a process, the spread of education, the spread of information, the capacity for transport and communication, which I listed as social powers the first day, healthcare, the dissemination and access to science and technology, and all the others. So I think the trend, the direction is clear. It's an evolutionary direction, and it's inevitable. The second point, which Garry mentioned, I was so happy he mentioned, I had kind of wanted him, well, spend the rest of your talk on that, or we can cancel the rest of the afternoon. I want to hear you on this, so I'm going to ask you to come back to it. But you took it just kind of for granted, I think, that you said, I want to underline his statement, my words, the greater distribution of social power is by far the most beneficial thing for society as a whole. I think that my words, but I think, and if I'm wrong, you can correct me, but I think I wanted to underline there, he didn't use the word fair. He didn't use the word ethical. He didn't use the word to say that this is right. He said this is beneficial to all humanity. He's not using the ethical argument, and I think it's very important. Not that there's no reason not to use an ethical argument, but I think the ethical argument has been used for a long time, but the counter has been a non-ethical, value-free social science, which has really raised the question as to whether this is really desirable. Not whether it's ethical or not, but whether it's really desirable, whether really the distribution can work. And I believe entirely what I think you said, that the greater distribution is the only way to build a more successful global society. We've tried imperialism, we've tried conquest, we've tried colonialism, we've tried aristocracy, monarchy, and all of the other versions. The only one that's going to ensure some stability for the evolution of the race is one that continues to distribute this, not only because it's right or ethical or whatever, but because practically it gives the greatest effect. And I think we see it with respect to democracy. Whatever are the horrible weaknesses in the democracy as we see it today, I don't know who's recommending that we go back to autocracy or monarchy or anything we've had in the past compared with where we are. The third thing is, I think that the evolution, as I see it, is an evolution towards greater values, and it's the use of values by almost every speaker in every session and this and the other. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't think it's just out of an idealism or morality. I look at values as the quintessence of wisdom that humanity has gained about what works and what will be sustainable in future. Freedom is not only ethically good and not only it feels good, but freedom is the only way to release the human potential that makes our society more creative. And if that's true of freedom, it's also true of equality and other values of trust, of integrity, of trustworthiness, and all the other values under which our social system is based. We have tried and gone through centuries of evolution by force, where who's ever stronger takes things. It hasn't been stable. We have gone beyond it. We have tried evolution through crises, and we still do a lot of that. Today, there's more and more than ever before in history, I would argue, a commitment or a recognition that the future of our evolution is through values, and that works better than anything we have tried up until now. I also made long slides on all the things we could do to support the redistribution of social power in its different respects. And you added the indicators, the measures, which I had missed, which is very important, really important for that. And a number of the others Eric touched on, and I'm not going to put up my lists. I might add just a couple that haven't been touched. One which I may have alluded to this morning, in that one very powerful method is simply a tax on short-term speculative investments at the national and international level, when we have the mechanisms in place to do it effectively. It's not an easy thing to do. Another one would be, and it's something Winston and I have written about, and Ivo and I, and that is the right to employment. Because in a market economy, employment is equivalent to the right to vote in a democracy. If you don't have a job and you don't have a socialist system that's going to ensure your minimum welfare, how do you do it if you don't have access to employment? So either we've got to create those jobs, and I believe it's possible, or we've got to have something like a basic income program to ensure. And Zbig, you raised an important point that I wanted to discuss earlier. I'm not going to go into it a lot because I understand where you were coming from. You said in the earlier session that the free distribution of money has a lot of negative effects. Let's talk about the unemployment and what are the negative effects. The costs to society, the crime rates, the violence, the health degeneration, the breaking up of families, the terrorism. There's a lot of evidence to show that the main driving attraction of young people for terrorist movements in the Arab countries or the Muslims is they don't get jobs, and they're offered money, they're offered security to do this. So I think the important point is not that there aren't problems with implementing any of these strategies. The important point is, as in you who have lived on the other side of the Iron Curtain from where I grew up, we're taught that freedom has a lot of problems to it. We got people sleeping on the street and families breaking up and everything, and at least you have the security of, quote, equality. Well, we've been brainwashed equally on the other side that any attempt to establish social equality means you have to rob people of their freedom, and you're going to make your society unproductive, and if you don't believe it, look what's happening on the other side of the Iron Curtain, which had nothing to do with equality at all. It had everything to do with authority. It had everything to do with preventing the growth and expression of human energies and initiatives, which there's no reason to think that we can't have freedom and vote, even if neither system has done it up until now. So I think finally, Barry, you mentioned a very important point, which again there was no time to elaborate. You mentioned that ultimately the issue of global governance is critical for addressing this issue. And Winston and I wrote a paper a few years ago on global rule of law in which we talked about sovereignty, and we argued in that paper that ultimately we have to have an evolution of sovereignty that doesn't delegitimize the rights of a nation state, but that also recognizes the rights of humanity. And we do not have a global system of governance that recognizes the rights of humanity except in a Declaration of Human Rights. At the national level, we have recognized the rights of individuals to some extent, as opposed to the rights of the nation. There's something. But at the international level, the rights of humanity, the rights of the global community, it's really the nation states that are being governed. So I thought you'd raised an important point. My final comment would be, which kind of explains why I think we're here, that apart from all of these strategies, I think there is something else necessary in order to bring this about, and that's intellectual. We have to bring values back into our study of the social sciences and make them explicit. We have to say that social sciences have an explicit goal and objective, which is to maximize human well-being. Yeah. We have to make explicit the implicit premises behind our theories, especially our economic theories, but even our political theories, even our international theories, so that we can really move towards a human-centered theory of society, which is really the purpose of this whole series of conferences. Thank you.